There was a video that was clipped out of context from what I've seen. Of iDubbbz talking to Anthony Padilla. Mudahar actually quote tweeted it as well. Here is a clip from iDubbbz, which I've had on the stream as well. I like him a lot. I think that he is another example of a person who's like another example of a person who like had a lot of fucking edgy content, who has changed his perspective. But the discourse around the clip like really pissed off pretty much everyone. Because, well, one, it's like a short, like a very short clip. You don't really get to see all of it. Here, let's watch.
I did not like the interactions that I had with fans. There were quite a few human beings that I interacted with that just sucked because I attracted a lot of people who sucked. Some people were very much like antisocial, weird, basement dwellers. You know, the one time a month that they come out of their cave and they run into me, their favorite YouTuber.
And what would they say? What would they do?
Things that I am certainly not.
What was his edgy content? Just saying the N-word. Like, a lot of what iDubbbz did even back then was unironically pretty good, but he pushed it way too far with a lot of the classic N-word, F-word, you know what I mean? Like, with the classic like, I should be able to say everything, right? His content cops and the people that he identified as like villains on the internet were pretty solid, and his content cops were well thought out, and his content cops actually did a decent job of like showing why a lot of the people that he was shitting on were fucking dumb, right? He has also created like him and Ethan as well, H3H3, like they created an entire genre of people that were basically making these kinds of essays on people, right? And they did it very well. They did it really, really well. But also, politically speaking, just like everyone else, Filthy Frank, Joji too, yeah, just like everyone else that was alive at the time, with some minor exceptions like your boy, okay, whose opinions were also sometimes edgy on certain matters, as you guys have also seen. Maybe even, but, you know, way, way longer than these guys. I mean, that was a super long time ago. Ultimately, they created like a massive audience, right? They created a massive audience, and also like copycats even. And the fact that Joji was praised and he's vilified is super dumb, because Joji changed the type of content that he's making. He does music now and only music, right? He's still in the commentary sphere. So that's it. Due to the hard R and F word, he had it coming. He's racist. My friend, this is something I talk about all the time. Rehabilitation is something that you should always want, okay? Rehabilitation is something that you should believe in. The belief that people can change from their former selves, no matter how bad their impact was, is a fundamental value I hold on to and try to instill upon my audience all the fucking time. If you are on the right and you look at someone like iDubbbz and you say, look at his former glory, look at where he is gone, look at how much of a cuck he is, look at how soy he is, I understand why those guys are coming at it from that perspective, because they think, oh, he just like, he dropped his beliefs. He dropped his like real beliefs for one reason or the other, right? But if you are on the left, if you are a liberal, if you are if you are someone who believes in progress, okay, you have to always understand. Now, as a white guy, it's easier for me to say. As a straight guy, this is easier for me to say, 100%. Okay, obviously, I recognize the privilege that I have. But if you are a leftist, that space, yes, was very toxic for someone like yourself, especially if you're black, especially if you're gay, right? I'm a white dude. I have the privilege to be able to say, like, it didn't impact me in that same way, even though, like, a lot of the edgy, toxic, 4chan adjacent, 4chan hybrid audience that he had cultivated for himself also were perpetually fucking doxing and sending me death threats 10 years ago even. So, you know, he probably even played a role in that. However, If you are a liberal, if you're a leftist, if you're a progressive, if you find yourself to be that way, you have to understand that people publicly changing is a good thing. Okay? Public personalities saying, hey man, I used to do this edgy shit, and honestly, it was really fucked up. I hated the audience that I created. I wanted to change. And people just constantly tying you back to that old shit that you have done. You're making it impossible for other people to come to your side. Okay? You get what I mean? People should also watch the whole thing. He's not just randomly shitting on fans. He's talking about how he bred an environment that created an awful audience. Exactly. When someone admits that they were wrong for things that they did 10 years ago, okay? What did he say? Wait, what? He said the N-word with the same energy you say the C-word with. You're literally the same. Yes, he did. Like when I say cracker. Yeah. Notice how I can say cracker? You had the right C word in the chat, but I can say cracker with as much energy as I want because one is not the same as the other. I can't tell if you're like literally fucking so fragile, unironically, or if you're like out of your fucking mind. I don't know what's going on. Anyway. As far as like a public persona goes, atoning for the things you have done in the past, and then recognizing that you were wrong, and trying to atone for the audience that you have, an audience that you've cultivated. We should be more forgiving and more understanding of these people. I can't make that demand of the people who are impacted and targeted. Okay. But, a lot of these guys also did a fuckload of Islamophobia. A lot of these guys also created an audience of fucking edgelords who then came after me regularly and still do to this day. And even then, despite being personally impacted by a lot of this shit, I still believe that it's a good thing overall when a public persona who has created like edgelords and made it fashionable and cool, okay? When those guys turn back on that and say, I fucked up, I shouldn't have ever done that, and I'm happy that I no longer am doing that. It takes a lot for someone to recognize that they're wrong. It takes a lot for someone to recognize that they were in the fucking wrong. Okay? It takes a lot for someone to atone. Even then, there's going to be plenty of people that are not understanding of them and hold them to what they have done in the past. Okay? Let's not forget, you said the R word. I don't understand why you're doing this. Do you think this is a... Yes, I did. Of course I did. Yeah. And not all that long ago either. Yeah. I did. Yeah. Well, I'm fucking brain broken myself personally. Some might make the argument that I have the past. But regardless, like, yeah. So... people still say. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing the thing that I'm talking about. You're holding people, you think you're holding people accountable, but all you're doing, okay? All you're doing in this circumstance, no, not the hard R, dude. No, the R word. The word he is talking about is, I'm going to say it in French, retard, okay? To retard, like to take back. Or the American version of that. Do you understand? That's what he's talking about. Make no mistake. We're not doing the fucking Linus Tech Tip shit. So, that R word. It doesn't mean to take back in French. It means to slow down or delay. Yeah. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It means to slow. So, this is something I truly believe in. And I think it's very important for others to also, if you are, a leftist, progressive, liberal, whatever the fuck you are, okay? I think we should all be a little bit more open-minded towards people who have demonstrated that they that they were wrong, atoned, and openly stated all the time. They don't need to like constantly. They don't need to constantly fucking be like, I'm so pathetic. I'm so sorry. You know what I mean? You kind of get it. Like, forgiveness is key. Forgiveness is huge. And I will forgive anyone and everyone. This is a fundamental value that I have. I believe that it is something that is, honestly, you look like a failed abortion. Okay. That's funny. So, like, I guess a baby. As I was saying, I think you would want people to be nice to you if your past ever was revealed in a similar capacity. Obviously, some people are more responsible for the hatred that you experience online than others, but ultimately, I think once accountability kicks in and someone recognizes their flaws, it's good when they recognize that very publicly. It takes a lot, you know. So Mudahar said, I can understand distancing yourself from racist fans, but this makes me laugh. I remember the first iDubbbz video I've ever seen of him driving out to Tanacon, pretending to be a fan and saying the N-word. A lot of those weirdos existed because of his content in the first place. Yeah, and I think iDubbbz recognizes that. I think he realizes that and is openly distancing himself from that past while slowly trying to take accountability. As a firm believer in rehabilitation, I think it's great that people openly change their outlook and even their content, no matter how toxic they may have been. And Mudahar also agrees. He says, I think it's better than nothing for sure. I remember seeing him constantly as a response macro on 4chan threads, so it wasn't a surprise his fan base had some of the worst in it that came to my mind. Glad to see he's maturing. Yeah, and I think he has. And people that say, oh, he's maturing, people that say, like, oh, he matured because, like, he can't make as much edgy content anymore. People don't really understand. You can really get away with a lot of edgy content still to this day as long as you don't say certain words. So if he wanted to, he could have very clearly just like eliminated some of the words from his lexicon and then continued to fucking make the same exact kind of edgy ass content. But he doesn't do that anymore. Because I do think that he genuinely has like changed his perspective. Tears who says, I'm confused. Was this not obvious to people? Do you think he's just randomly dunking on his fans? He's explaining why he shifted his content style. He realized his audience was a mirror and didn't like the reflection he saw of himself. Exactly. I think Anissa really helped him grow up. Yes, absolutely. I mean, she is the GOAT. She is awesome. That was like one of my first, even before I knew anything about Ian or I knew anything about his like political perspective, when I saw that, I was like, oh, because I know she's dope. I know she's awesome. I know she has, great politics. She was kind of edgy too, though, at a point. Yeah, I think like, I think that they grew up together in their political perspectives. Yeah. Anecdote, but I sat down with Ian and his partner at TwitchCon, and you can tell when you mention his past, he legitimately feels bad. Yeah, it's a very uncomfortable topic to broach because like anyone who has had any kind of like perspectives that they don't actually believe in any longer, when you bring that shit up, and we're gonna watch this video as well, but I kind of want to do some like regular news coverage. And then I'll get back to this because I do think that redemption is huge. And I always wish that, people who claim to be leftist, people who are like ostensibly on the left, people who claim to be progressive, maybe could be a little bit more empathetic towards those who have public personas who originally contributed to the toxicity online that no longer believe in those values. I know that's a major ask. Okay? Edgy, you mean racist, don't you? Yes, absolutely. No, that's precisely what I mean. It's the same thing over and over again. We are expected to just forgive and forget when we were hurt by it. No, I get that. I totally get that. That's why I always say, every white person gets to have the hard ER moments. And it's like, can y'all just chill them out? No, this is not about that. You're misunderstanding. Okay. That's why I say I have the privilege to be able to say this, but it's the same concept as like asking those in my community to sometimes do emotional labor, right? It's a huge part. It is a huge part of trying to convert others and make it an accepting space. Okay? Because our goal should be to try to get people to stop being that way, right? I'm glad you're acknowledging that it's a huge ask. Of course I am. Of course I am. Of course. But what you have to recognize is that if our goal is a community, and this community should be at least standalone on this because of how much I've championed this since the jump. Okay? Forgiveness is a huge part of having an empathetic approach. And unfortunately, we do come across like we are incapable of allowing people to change. And that's a problem. Especially when many people in this community that is massive, that you find to be comrades, that you find to be friends, that you trust in now, that you confide in, often had some edgy perspectives, but maybe they had anonymity. So they weren't able to, so you don't know. You can never pull up their, prior former selves. Okay? Because ultimately we are products of the systems, right? We're products of the systems that we grew up in. And if you as a leftist, you as a progressive understand that the systems are white supremacist, racist, transphobic, homophobic, misogynistic, patriarchal, right? Then you understand the products of said systems are going to resemble those values as well. So when people go against the grain, when people say my former self is not correct, my former self is wrong, I think that's something that should be celebrated. I think that is something that people should be more understanding towards. Unfortunately, it's very much a firmly held part of our culture here in the United States of America, especially, and that draconian attitude of wanting to punish people and that like evil versus please don't tell me to relax random chatters when I've been like affected by this directly and it upsets me. No, I understand. I understand that. I do. Okay? But it was profitable for him. I need more than just word, all I'm saying. Okay, guys. All you're doing is try to, I think this is easy for you to say while not being black or having a black family. Like, what the fuck? Guys, stop adding the people that I pull up on screen. That's number one. And two, I acknowledge that. And I recognize that, which is why I ask you a, albeit very large ask. Okay? Because ultimately, there is another side to this. If you make it impossible to change, you're basically feeding into the fucking right. There might be people that are in the margins that are like, you know what? I kind of want to, I think what I'm doing is toxic. I think what I'm doing is wrong. Okay? No, we aren't. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You 100% are. This is something that I really, really, really 100% fundamentally believe in. Okay? You are. You can say I'm not, but it doesn't matter. If you make it so that if we're going against the grain here, if we are combating the constructs that make it feel like if we're going against the grain here, if we are literally fucking advocating against the systemic constructs that are firmly held by so many people, you have to, no matter what happens, you have to put your best foot forward. You are behaving in a socially inept way and mistaking that for activism. It's not. Okay? And when you sit there and act like, no, actually, it doesn't matter. This person was bad in the past, and even if he is no longer bad any longer, I still will hold him to his former self that he truly understands was fucked up all the time. you make it seem like it's impossible to grow and it's impossible to change. And that is a fundamentally right-wing, objectivist ideology that like there is good and evil in the world, and some people are good and some people are evil. It is anti-materialist inherently to make this fucking assessment. Okay? You can write all the fucking essays you want, but ultimately it is anti-materialist to make this fucking argument that like people were bad and wrong and racist, and that means they were bad and they were racist because they were bad and not because they were products of the fucking environments that they grew in. That's number one. Okay, I think maybe you have to articulate is that it's okay to forgive him, but you don't have to like him, especially as a black person. Sure, exactly. Ultimately, I'm not even saying you have to forgive this person, but I am telling you that the side effect of that, the secondary consequence of that is that a lot of people in the margins see your behavior and think, well, why the fuck should I change? You know, I'm just going to fucking solidify because the one side is my hug box. The one side of toxicity and right-wing ideas are offering me support and comfort. Okay? Yeah. I think iDubbbz has actually changed, acknowledges his past and why it's unacceptable, why it is unacceptable, then cool. I think if iDubbbz has actually changed. All too often, do we accept people who haven't changed? I don't know which is the case, but his actions will tell, and I'm willing to wait and see. Exactly. That's all I ask.